Hey guys, what's up? It's the DrumQuig Podcast. I know you've missed us, and I decided, it's been a while since we did the last episode. Let's bring in somebody special. And with us today is somebody that Dad and I got to see 15 years ago at Seminole Music. He is a pioneer of blast beats, whether he wants to admit it or not. But he's been in bands like Nile, Hate Eternal, so many other ones, Serpent's Rise. The list could just go on. But please welcome Derek Roddy. How you doing, man?
Oh, I am doing good. You all right, Matt? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good. I know we were talking a little bit before, about everything going on in life, and a lot has gone on in the last 15 years. So, I mean, thanks for being with us. It's super cool to still see you drumming and teaching and being kind of a part of this community after all the time.
Oh yeah, man. Wouldn't have it any other way. Where am I gonna go otherwise? It's not like, it's not something that you just give up. So um I've been thankful to be able to play and keep doing this. And yeah, I mean, even if it's just within these four walls, I've probably recorded more music in the last 5 years than I did the previous 15. So it's I'm doing a lot of stuff as far as that's concerned, but I'm just not really I'm not really up on the social media stuff so much, and I don't really care about like that fake world kind of platform that is. And I'm mostly in a real life kind of person. So I do post stuff here and there. I'm once a month or something I'll make a post about music related things, but yeah, just try to keep it in the real world these days. It's hard to do.
And it really is. And I really want to touch on that because you have been putting out more in the last 5 years. There was kind of a period where it's like you didn't disappear from the music scene, but your role changed and your position changed. And I think living in the
Well, I
moment,
don't.
like,
I think it's like I didn't disappear from the music scene. The scene disappeared from everybody else. That's like something that we don't talk about because ever since our attention span has been taken by these devices, um, music plays a less and less part in most people's lives. I mean, it's like for us musos, the people like that are musicians or people that appreciate music, that we're always going to be into it. But you think about some of the industry back in the day, let's say, where there were 75 to 80% of people that aren't musos that made the industry work. And those people, they don't even listen to music anymore.
mm-mm.
You know what I mean? They're doing other things, whether it's video games or podcasts or whatever it is, social activities as far as Facebook and Instagram, scrolling. And I watch people just do it for hours and they're not even like paying attention to anything. It's not like listening to music. So it's weird how like the industry kind of disconnected from music years ago. I don't think this is anything new. I think that for maybe a decade or a little longer that we were able to sustain the industry, but 15% of the people that are into music can't sustain an entire industry for forever.
No.
So at some point it was going to collapse. And I think that like I saw that many, many, many years ago, like with the advent of YouTube and all this other stuff, but it even got back before that because I don't think that social media and the event of internet, I mean, most musicians are going to tell you, oh, the internet destroyed music, but I think musicians destroyed music. Um,
Oh.
when you think about it, like, look, we as human beings, and I've said this before on other podcasts, but we as human beings, we spend our entire lives looking for trust and honesty. And when our music has neither one of those, you can be sure that people are going to move on to something else and look for trust and honesty. And this goes all the way back to when MTV stopped playing music videos. MTV didn't stop playing music videos because their ratings were through the roof, right? They stopped playing music videos because their audience went away. They disconnected from music because they figured out, oh, that's not him playing that solo. Those drums aren't real. That's not them singing. That was corrected. People disconnected from it because music lost its honesty. I mean, and it was MTV had done the studies. They were smart. They came out with another platform that had it right in the title, reality television. They knew people didn't want fake stuff. They knew it. You know what I mean? And those percentage of people that lost their connection with music, maybe they don't even know why they lost their connection. It just doesn't appeal to them anymore. It just doesn't hit them anymore. You hear every excuse in the book. I just don't relate to it anymore. Oh, these new bands suck. You know what I mean? That's a popular one. New bands don't suck. It's just that they're not honest. If they were honest, maybe people would care. You know, and I don't care what anybody says. You haven't heard a metal record in the last 10 to 15 years that's got real drums on it, period. There's like 0.00003% of everything released that actually has a real snare drum on it. You know what I mean? And like, so, you know, I don't listen to new music. And it's not because it's not because I don't look for it, but the moment I hear sound replaced drums and gridded perfect drums, my ears shut off. I can't even listen to it. I try. I just notice myself not paying attention. And that's exactly what happens to everybody else, whether they know it or not. So I don't think the internet is responsible for any of this. I think musicians are responsible for this. Because look, it's never been easier to go to countablecorpse.com or morbidangel.com or iammorbid.com or fleetwoodmac.com and buy their stuff. It's never been easier. In the history of buying music, has it been easier to support an artist, but people don't? Well, the musos do, but again, that's not enough people to make the industry work. So I don't know. I think that we have ourselves to blame for this, to be honest.
And I never in a million years that I think that we would get that conversation we just had from that, because you're right. There is so much that music has lost. And I feel like they're trying to get it back. It's trying to, but you're right. You watch a video and it goes, the video's 2 minutes long. Nah, I'm not going to watch it. 30 seconds?
Oh, yeah.
Give me the clip.
I mean, dude, like you've looked at your own channel on your, you know, the average watch time on, I think, well, it's interesting because like YouTube is a long format, you know, set up. So like the average amount of seconds that people watch something on YouTube is longer than everything else, but it's only about 30 seconds, 27 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you get to Instagram, which is like 4 seconds, and then Facebook is like 9 seconds. So that's all even if you have a 3-minute video, like your band's video, when people are in this environment, they don't watch it. They may stop 9 seconds as the average time. Then next. I mean, something may appeal to you a little longer. That's where that average comes in. So what? You watched it for 15 seconds as opposed to 3? You know what I mean? This is exactly what I'm talking about. And if all of the stuff that we were looking at was honest, it would captivate us, but it doesn't. So we just do this, looking for honesty all day long. Man, I don't know how people don't see it, you know, especially musicians. I don't get it. I don't know.
No, now that I think about it, it's the same thing with music. You listen to a song, you go, okay, you've got like 15 seconds to get me. Like you've got a short amount of time to hook me.
Right. It wasn't like that when I was younger. Like you went and you bought an album, and man, by the time like you put a record on and you experienced whatever that was that they were trying to convey that was captured in that moment, because that's the beauty of it. Like these musicians that go back and they fix their stuff and they punch in and they sound replace with other people's sounds and stuff. They're missing the moment, right? And that moment is what is valuable. People don't realize that the moment you capture, that's what people are fascinated with, and that's what people will pay money for. That's why people still go to live shows, because they're paying for the moment.
Yeah.
Right? So, and even that is like, man, you know, you go to a show and 95% of the people are staring into their phones doing this, not even watching the bands. Pay attention when you go to shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we just went to Metallica just a couple weeks ago, and it's like the band's on the stage, and then they have a bunch of screens so you can watch it up there. And I was like, but they're down there. Watch them.
Yeah, but they're also that tall.
Yes.
You know, so that's one thing. I mean, I was glad the screens were there so you can look if you want to see something. I was trying to find out what mics Lars was using on his kit. Can't see it from the seats. So you look on the video like, all right, I see.
Well, and he used 4
So
different
yeah,
kits,
yeah, it's cool.
and I was
It's very
like,
cool. I noticed some stuff about that that's very interesting. His kit's on a timer, which is very cool because
"What?
like when you're in a circle, yeah, you didn't notice his drum kit rotates. It goes from one side to the other.
Mm-mm."
Like when he starts, his kit's facing what would be stage right in a circle, so his
Yeah,
kit's facing that way, and then as he's playing, it's slowly turning until it ends up stage left, and then okay, that's when I go to another kit.
yeah. And what
It's
they would
cool,
do
man, the
is
way they have that laid out.
oh,
Yeah,
they would literally
it's
I didn't
cool.
even realize it. Like, I'm the only thing I'm
Right.
staring at, like, when I went there, I wanted to see Jay Weinberg play with Suicidal Tendencies. I wanted to see
Yep.
Charlie Benante play with Pantera, Zach
Of
Wild playing
course.
guitar with Pantera. It was an experience that I didn't know I really had to have in my life, but I wanted it.
The amount of
And of course,
people that I think they broke an attendance record in Tampa, right? You're talking about
yeah,
Tampa?
yeah, the Sunday show.
They
Well,
broke
that's
an
what we went to. Yeah,
Yeah, they broke the attendance record both nights. I think there was just shy of 100,000 people in that place, like
and
99,000 something people.
it felt like it. Like, it actually
Yeah,
felt.
yeah, yeah.
And I've seen
That's
Metallica
what's
twice.
special about those.
Yeah,
That's what's special about those shows. Just the energy is now. Granted, getting into it and getting out of it, I could do without. But while you're there, it's a very very surreal kind. And it's only those kind of stadium gigs really provide that. I mean, you get it to some degree in smaller gigs, but man, when there's that many people, that was something special for sure. And they kicked ass. Lars played great.
yeah.
It was great. They
I
sounded
was
amazing.
amazed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely cool. That's one of the spectacles of the year for sure. I mean, they're doing it on a level that I don't think that any other band will ever be able, any other metal band will ever be able to do. I mean,
No, and
it's
that's
pretty crazy.
the first CD I ever bought was Metallica's Black Album. And to this day, other than I think the last two, they're still the only band that I can name every album in order, the year they came out, like,
Yeah, right. All right.
and it's one of those things where it's like they're still doing it. They're still out there. And they did Whiskey in the Jar on Sunday
Yep.
night. The
And played a
crowd
cover.
went nuts, and I went, "Yes."
What
So,
about Kirk and Robert attempting death? That was funny.
yeah, that was weird. Sorry, guys. Listen, if Metallica ever watches this, thanks, guys, but I don't think you're going to. So, um, yeah, it was kind of weird, and I guess for me, like I said, I had 3 wants. That's it. I wanted to see Lars play again. I wanted to see Charlie play, and I wanted to see Jay play.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I always enjoy watching Charlie. He's so killer, and he's such a good dude. And it's
And
fun
for him
to watch him play. Yeah.
it's a seamless transition, I feel like. And I know it probably, he just made it look that way, but really,
Well, man, he did his homework. Like
yeah,
he really, 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 really did his homework on that stuff. He changed the way he plays. I mean, just to be able to do that, he took it real serious. It's something that, and you got to respect that. Just going out there and playing the songs like Charlie would play the songs is one thing, but he definitely put in the work to get the feel, to get like, and I mean, that's how all of the, it's kind of funny because that's how all of this started with me filling in for him in Anthrax because I, he was calling me like a year before this stuff even happened and he didn't even mention anything to me, but all of a sudden he started having like double bass questions and I'm like, well, not really questions, but how would you play this? Like if you had this kind of thing, would you do it right, left, or left, right, right. What would you do? I'm like, after a couple months of that, I'm like, all right, what's going on, dude? Like, there's something's up. So he told me, and this was before even Zach had even agreed to it or whatnot. He said, yeah, there's this opportunity you may have to do the Pantera thing, and I was like, okay, now I see what you're doing.
yeah,
So
that
pretty
that would
funny.
make a lot more sense at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good dude, man. I love Charlie.
Yeah, that's
It's
wild.
fun to
Like,
get it. It's fun to see him do this stuff too. Like I said, it's like a completely different drummer, and he's like molded himself into it, and it's pretty cool.
what I think drummers have that distinct ability. You know, a guitar player can play another song and not really change too much about what they're doing, but the drum part, like he had to embody Vinny. He had to embody that culture, that style, even though
Yeah.
the music is kind of in the same realm. It's not at the same time. Like it's
Right.
so different and yet
Well,
so the
it's
same. Like,
it's it's definitely an easier gig for him, but at the same time, uh it's just the small things, like no ghost noting, or
uh-huh.
the lack of fills, or because Charlie's a busy drummer. He plays a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
to come into that gig, I mean, even down to the drum sound and the size drums that he's playing, like he completely like went bigger drums, and you know that whole thing just to nail his tone, which is completely a different thing than Charlie's sound,
Yeah, exactly.
um, and a
And that's
different
it.
feel.
Yeah, well,
The
Vinny,
drums feel different when you tune like that too. So, it's like there's a bunch of adaptation going on there,
yeah,
It's
and
interesting
Vinny
for
always
sure.
felt like he was trying to put that, the beater through the bass drum every time he hit it. So it's just
Yeah, 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 yeah. And Charlie's more of a finesse kind of guy, So, it's funny too because I didn't realize. I mean, Charlie obviously is a huge influence on me growing up. I mean, the
yeah.
amount of time I played to Among the Living, like just growing up and playing in high school alone. Um, but I didn't realize until I sat on his kit. And it obviously his drum kit has changed over the years, but like the positioning of like the basic stuff, like the cymbals, and that kind of stuff, I didn't have to change anything. Like I literally sat down and just played his kit as is. That's when you know that somebody's a big influence on you, because like even just shutting my eyes and like my stuff's it's not symmetrical like a lot of drummers stuff, but like
Mhm.
I always want to reach higher with my left hand than I do my right hand, you know. And his kit's the same thing, It's like that everything's right in the same positions. I was like, man, this is gonna be easy. And it totally didn't realize it until I sat down. Like, oh wow, this is real comfortable. So who knew?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was that like to fill in for him then? Like, given that he had that big of an influence on you, and then he was asking you questions. Like, what goes through your mind in
Well,
that moment?
it wasn't even like questions. It was more of a like, how would you approach it kind of thing, I mean, it was awesome. I've known, Charlie for a good minute, and then some of the other guys I've met in passing, in here, and we, knew of each other and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, those guys are like they're totally welcoming. They made me feel right at home. Like even the first gig that I played with those guys, it's like we've been playing together for a while, like everything felt like natural and very good. They're old school. They don't use in-ears on stage really. Joey does because he's a singer. Obviously, it makes sense. Um, Charlie has in-ears back on his, and it's funny because I was like, I guarantee you if I plug into these in-ears, it's going to be only drums. Only drums. Yeah. Because, I mean, you can hear everything else. They're loud as hell on stage. I mean, Scott and Frank and John are like, Charlie's like literally sitting right on top of their cabinets for the most part. So if you can't hear, you're not listening, So it's like, um, so yeah, it's just very old school and walk out on stage and kick ass. I mean, there was really nothing else to it. The funny thing about that was those guys they don't sound check or do any of that stuff, so it was hard to get them on stage to play through songs. So some of the songs that I played with those guys, first time we ever played them was on stage in front of people. So that was a little bit stressful, like the first few nights, like because I had played this stuff to death and I know these songs, you know what I mean? But like actually doing it with the band for the first time on stage that's a little bit like nail biting. But they didn't, they're like so low key. They're like, you're fine, you know. All right, whatever you say, man. Like they just gotta
Well,
roll with it. So
and that's what you have to do. And I'm gonna bring this up just because you can't see it. I think it's behind me, the giant Dream Theater blanket behind me. You got
oh,
the
right on.
opportunity to, audition for them and do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
looking back on it now, like obviously they went with Mangini and now we've got Portnoy back in the band. Like, have you watched like that transition and said, that was the guy. Yeah, that was the right choice. Like,
Um, well, the whole thing is kind of not what it seems, you know what I mean? And I predict from day one, even before I did this audition, I was like, man, Portnoy is like, he's probably the smartest business-minded person in all of rock and roll. Because the way that the industry was going and just how he was able to tune in to like the longevity aspect of his band,
mm,
right? I thought was pretty genius because like a lot of the bands that were around at that time, like prog band, like Face Warning, for example, those guys were like struggling for a decade to try to get out there and continue doing what they were doing, just because, like we said, the industry is kind of, you know, and I believe that Portnoy knew that their shelf life during that time period was going to be limited because of how rough the industry was, right? And it's my personal opinion, even going and doing the audition, that it was all Portnoy's plan. That's what it felt like to me from the very beginning. Um, and when I did the audition, I mean, John, um, he told me straight up that Mangini was their guy. I was the second due to audition. Mangini was first. I was second on the first day,
oh
and then
God.
Virgil and
Yeah.
Thomas and everybody else on the previous day, on the following days, post days. But John told me straight up that day, like, Mangini's our guy. The label wants content. I think they were even trying to shop the footage they had, and they were trying to get more of us involved in maybe doing like a reality show,
Mm,
that kind of thing. I heard all kinds of stuff, and about what was going on. But my initial thought was Portnoy did this on purpose, so he could come back a decade later and ride it out for another 10 years. So he basically created a 20-year shelf life for Dream Theater that they did not have if he would have stayed in the band. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And you've seen other bands now following suit, kind of doing the same thing, especially recently,
yeah.
especially like some of these bands that look like they could have a legacy like tour 10, 15 years down the road, but it's not going to happen unless the original members are there. So that means you got to kick somebody out for a decade. So that business model now I think has become like a pretty popular thing to do within bands. And it really is it's a genius move because, again, you're giving your band an extra decade of shelf life. I mean, I knew it. One of the very first interviews I did, like a week after that audition, is I said, "Oh, Portnoy will be back in a decade," and everybody was like, "No, man, no, that's not true. They've had it with him and blah blah." I was like, "Bro, you guys are falling for it. Like, that dude's gonna be back." And it was basically, if it hadn't have been for COVID, because it was 13 years, because we had 3 years of COVID. But if it hadn't
Yeah.
been for COVID, he would have been back sooner. You know what I mean? And so I think that whole thing was planned from the very start. And like, you won't convince me otherwise, because I just think that Portnoy's a smart dude, and I think that he figured that out. And like, if he didn't, then he missed an opportunity because,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If that was by accident, then I don't know. I don't think it was. I think he's too smart for that. So.
I realized bringing up something that happened quite some time ago, but that just blew my mind. Like your whole the idea behind it, because you've seen it more recently. You're seeing a lot more drummers get displaced, and they're getting displaced because of creative differences after
Well,
being in a
drummers,
band for a
guitar
while.
players too. You're
Yeah.
seeing all kinds of musicians just drop and leave from bands. I mean, dude left Mastodon. Like, mark my words, get that 8 to 10 years or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so that dude to be back, and it's just, I think it's just a business model of bands that are seeing their audience like dwindle tour after tour after tour after tour, and they figure, what are we going to do? Well, let's create a bunch of controversy, right? Somebody quits the band, something happens, blah, blah, blah. There's bad blood or whatever, whatever it is, or maybe it's acclamable or whatever. But 10 years later, decade later, here comes that same thing back in, and then there's the reunion tours and all of this stuff. So, yeah, I just think that now it's kind of become predictable for all of these bands, and I don't buy any of it. You know, because all of these guys are trying to still make a living doing what they're doing, and it's a very, very, very tough environment to do that when there's no industry.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a hard thing to do, and like almost every single person I know playing music are going, "What the fuck?" Like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And I'm talking about people that have Grammys hanging on their walls to all the way to guys that are in vans touring. I don't know anybody out there killing it. Let me just put it that way. And I know a lot of people. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is, you know? Not trying to be the Debbie Downer, but again, I think that musicians did this to themselves. And the faster we get back to being honest, maybe it'll regain its value. I don't know. Maybe we're screwed. I mean, look, for 70,000 years, music was free. It was something we did to mourn, you know, death, to celebrate life, entertainment after a big kill and a feed. You know what I mean? Like, it's only been the last 100 years, 125 years that music has been for sale. I mean, kind of what did we suspect? What did we expect anyway, you know? I'm not saying that there can't be an industry, but if there is going to be an industry, it has to be honest. Or else it won't be an industry. It's kind of like reality television. Like right now, nobody watches reality television because people figured out, oh, Duck Dynasty dudes aren't actually, that's not a thing. They don't have beards. That's not a real company. That's just all made up. You know what I mean? Like once people figure that stuff out, oh, Storage Wars, that ain't real. Like that's all set up. People lost interest. Now what are they on to? Podcast. When I was doing those Anthrax shows, every single person I saw with earbuds, I asked them, hey man, what do you listen to? Podcast. Like 1 out of 100 people maybe were listening to music.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah. So it's like even when you go into stores, you listen to people listening to podcasts. It used to be when you go to the mall, every single store had music blaring out of it. Go to the mall now. Silence.
Yeah.
Silent. You know, so right. I mean, there may be music, but mostly it's going to be podcast, talk radio, that kind of stuff. You know, CNN, news, 24-hour news cycle, you know, that whole vibe. Like I don't know, man. I think that if, and it may take another 3 decades, but if music becomes honest again, we might have a shot. I don't know.
What would you think is the first thing to get us to that right step to get music back to being honest? Like what, if you had full control and said, this is what I think will make it honest. Here's step 1. What do we do?
Well, it's going to start with the musician, you know, and look, this is a very pointed question, right? Because look, I mean, it's hard enough to know who we are as individuals, right? As people, much less as a drummer or a guitar player or as a songwriter. You know what I mean? Which is why you end up with bands going in and being like, oh, I don't really like my snare drum sound. Can we replace it with somebody else's? That's because you don't know who you are. You know what I mean? Plain and simple. And I think that like that's a subsequence of just society in general. So I think like you have, you know, it goes well beyond like musicians being honest. This is going to have to come back to people being honest, right? Like not using filters on your pictures and not trying to take a picture in the best place you can to show your life being better than it is online. Or, you know what I mean? Like this is a very, very pointed thing. And honestly, I don't think any kind of entertainment on any kind of level as far as that is concerned has a chance as long as people are too busy faking everything else in their life. Because why would music be any different? If you're going to fake, you know, your appearance, if you're going to fake your attributes, if you're going to fake your career, if you're going to fake all that other stuff, like it's useless, right? So society in a whole has to do a whole bunch of shit in order for people to give a fuck about music again, man. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Again,
And
my opinion, but it's in the numbers. You know what I mean? Like you can look at it. You could. Friend of mine called me. I'll give you an example. Friend of mine called me the other day. He's like, bro. He goes, what did you graduate? I was like 90. He was like, yeah, me too. He goes, man, you remember like leaving school? He goes, we had that one 4-way stop coming out of the parking lot, and like it was backed up like 60 cars. You know what I mean? Trying to get off the school property, and like. The only way you could hear your own music is if it was at 100 dB and your windows were up. Because if it wasn't, you were hearing everybody else's music, right? He said, man, I picked up my kid because his car broke down. I'm sitting here like same situation at a 4-way stop, 40 cars deep. There's not a single car playing music. It is dead silent, dude. I'm like, wow, really? And like I started noticing, like when I'm out on the road, I don't hear music. I don't hear anybody. Every once in a while, if I'm in the right neighborhood, right? So, but overall, I don't hear people listening to music. I don't see people listening to music. When I go to the mall, I don't see people paying attention to it. So I think it's a bigger symptom, And how do you fix that?
Can you fix that?
Exactly. Can you fix that? So,
listen,
I don't know. Interesting discussion.
Yeah. Not anywhere near what I thought we'd talk about. And I think that's the best part about it is that having that opinion about it, because you've experienced it from point A to point B to point C, and we're back in this cylindrical, just we have to figure out how to fix it. We have to figure out to not just do the same stuff. And for me, my car is my music sanctuary. Being able to drive, have the windows down, and have that music so loud people next to you are rolling up the windows, that to me is still music at its finest, because I will never forget sitting at a stoplight. I used to work at Best Buy, and I was at the stoplight leaving, and I had As I Lay Dying playing. Controversial now, I know, but back then, we're talking like 2010.
Right.
And I remember the lady next to me motioning for me to turn it down. Older lady, probably in her 60s, 70s. And I turn it down, and she yells over, "Is that the new Autumn to Ashes?" And I was like, "No, it's As I Lay Dying." She goes, "I'm going to have to listen to that." And she drove off. And I was like, that was the coolest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
You won't see
stuff
that
like
now.
that, you don't see it often, for sure. I mean, like I said, there are musos. I mean, all of us musos are always going to be into it, because we understand it. We know people in it. It's like we're always gonna be into it. But like we can't make the entire industry work. One thing I wanted to bring up, you asked like what could musicians do to change this, and I think that an art that has been lost in musicians, and just as people in general, is learning to live with your mistakes. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, and you're not going to play perfect. It's just not in our nature as a human to do things perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that if you can hone your ability to live with what you believe are mistakes, then that could be something that puts us on the road of getting more honesty back in our art and our craft. I mean, I have drummer friends of mine that come to me after they've recorded, like every single time they get the record done. Man, I just got the mix, like they quantized my drums, everything's on the grid, it doesn't even sound human, and it's not even up to the musicians sometimes, in today's environment with. And then it's funny because like labels, well, if it doesn't sound modern and whatever, if like it doesn't sound, then it won't sell. Well, nothing's selling anyway, dude. It's like, they're missing the point. It's like the reason stuff's not selling is because it's not honest. If I hear this damn Spotify argument one more time, I'm going to start like wringing people's necks. You know what I mean? Because like the dude's only paying what it's worth. It's like when you go to Walmart, you could pay more for bread, but are you?
Mm-mm.
You're not gonna, I mean, you're going to pay what they're asking.
Yeah.
So,
and I think,
I just don't think people get it. And people think that this guy has gotten rich off of music, but his platform, if you look at their financials, the music subscriptions that they have barely pay. I think they take almost like a 1 or 2% loss every year on the storage of said media.
Jeez.
Right? Because people don't think about that. Like the storage for these millions of bands and these billions of songs, literally, that are on there. Think about that. Think about the bill for that, right? And people don't realize, like, he's gotten rich off of music and he's paid musicians nothing. No, he hasn't. He hasn't gotten rich off of music. He's gotten rich off of information. Because there's this little box when you sign up to Spotify, this little thing that you check that says, I agree. That's where his billions came from. It has nothing to do with our music. And nobody realizes this. You know what I mean? Everybody goes around and they bash Spotify. And the guy's just paying what we're asking for the music. Why would he pay more? He's paying what it's worth. It's not his fault that your music is worthless. I applaud the guy because it's no different than radio was back in the day. Musicians didn't get paid hardly squat for what was on the radio back then either.
No.
So how is it any different? But you did discover new stuff. You did discover things. So I don't blame the guy from Spotify for picking a business model and finding a way to actually make money doing this. But it has nothing to do with the music. It's your information that's being bought and sold that you have to agree to. That's where his billions came from. And if you're going to complain about the industry, at least know something about it. I mean, just seems like common sense.
Yeah, it does, but it's not.
I mean, it's the same thing for all these platforms, It's like their monetary, billions that these people have made for themselves are not coming off the backs of musicians. You agreed to go on the service. You sold your music to them for 0.0003 cent. You have the luxury of not doing that. You don't have to go on their platforms. Good luck.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
Metallica back in the day, just to bring it up again, the whole Napster thing, and them fighting with them and everything else. Like this is not something new.
But it doesn't matter though. I mean, I have a shirt that a buddy made for me that I asked him to that says musicians should have listened to Lars, right? He saw the writing on the wall, but it was just misplaced because the principal theory of everybody having direct access to the provider or producer of the music is a fabulous concept. And it would be great, again, if it was honest, people would be selling stuff.
Yeah. Well,
I commend Lars for seeing it. Lars did see it and everybody made fun of him for it. But at the same time, look, Metallica's filling stadiums the way they are because they're honest. They went up there. There's no triggers on the drums. There's no clicks. They're up there just playing as a band. The bands like Anthrax, they're up there playing as a band. There's no bullshit. There's no backing tracks. There's no sequences. Like nobody's playing to pre-recorded tracks. Like, and this is why this band is putting 100,000 people in a stadium when nobody else can, because they haven't lost their honesty. Maybe at some point in time they lost their way and they dishonest from what they were doing. They found their way back, But I watched that, very, very closely that night. I was paying very, very close attention to what was going on there. And like, these guys were just four dudes on stage jamming, mistakes and all, and there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, there's a video of Lars dropping the stick. I don't know. I don't think it's from that night. And he still just keeps playing. He's like, oh, I'll just until I pick up another one. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
He didn't go, stop everything. Start over. Like, no.
The only thing that miscued for Lars that whole night was when they played Battery. He lost his in-ear. When he came up on the last drum kit, his in-ear connection wasn't there. So they had to replace his in-ear pack halfway through the song, if you remember. Oh, it was only hiccup he had the whole night. He was dead on.
That's the worst hiccup you have after 40 years of playing together, like,
Yeah, well, that whole unit is a well-oiled machine. They've got that stuff down. They've had that crew forever. Yeah, they know what they're
Well,
doing.
I mean, yeah, at this point, Robert's been in the band longer than any other bassist, so
Over 20 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now you got me thinking, did they do the same thing with Jason when they replaced him with Robert that Portnoy did? Like, did they create their own
Well,
legacy?
Jason left.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason was, I think, he lives down here. And from what I can tell, just from the limited amount of interaction that I've seen and heard of him around town, that he just couldn't deal with, the amount of stardom, really. He just
Mm.
wanted the more quiet kind of thing, and he made his money and he got out.
Yeah.
You know, um, I don't know. I don't think like that kind of thing. I don't think Metallica's up for the gimmick again, because if they were, then I don't see them filling stadiums like they are.
Mm.
So I think that honesty again, that's like one of those things. Like I don't think they're going to do something like that. I don't think they would bring somebody back for a reunion thing. They don't need to. They're
No.
putting 100,000 people in an arena. Like they, you know, their
Well,
attendance isn't dwindling every tour like
yeah.
most bands.
No, and I mean, I think one of the coolest parts was Robert getting to see like his son play in Suicidal Tendencies, and then he comes in with like getting to see your son play,
Oh, exactly.
support
Yeah,
you
that's
on
cool.
a tour. I'm like, come on, that's got to be the best feeling. Like that's got to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, right. Yep. So cool.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the kit behind you because you have a kit in front of you or behind you in this sense. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what you got, man.
Oh man, I've had this kit a good minute now. Probably 12 years, 13 years. It's a standard DW collectors maple kit, but nothing like too extravagant really. Um, I will say that it's been when John like handpicked all of these shells for me when I originally got on with DW, and I will say that from drum to drum is probably the most consistent kit that I've ever owned. Like there's
Mm.
always one drum in a drum kit that just sounds like maybe it belongs to another kit,
Like it
especially like
didn't
when you get
belong in that set. Yeah.
yeah. Like anytime you buy like even if it's a high-end kit, even a Pearl Masters kit or a Tama Star Classic or Yamaha Maple Custom, they still come as like a 5-piece like kit in 2 boxes. And then if you get other drums, they're just add-on drums. It's not like those drums are all built from the same source at the same time
Mhm.
for a customer like these particular drums are, like the Masterworks Pearl, they do that. DW Collectors, Sonar SQ2, that's like the only, most all the other custom drum companies you see are just getting Keller shells, but these companies are actually building their shells. And so, yeah, it's a different thing. So when he picked out these drums, I wanted the lowest pitched, smallest drums that he could find, and even that, it's actually tuned up kind of high because I've been doing some other recording this week, but uh, even for an 8-inch drum, that's kind of low. 10 in my 14. It sounds like most people's 16s.
Easy.
So yeah, it's a very like low, big sounding kit with being small drums. Even the kick drums are 20s, on this kit. I'm 5'9", 5'10", so
Yeah.
I like being like over the top of stuff, especially when playing fast, doing the whole fast thing. So I've always kind of gravitated towards 20-inch kicks. Plus, I think like they're a little more versatile. Like you can do a lot with a 20. You can make it sound like a 22 or even a 24. You add some reverb and a sub to it. You could tune it up, take the pillow out of it, kind of get it sounding like an 18. Like you can't really do that with a 22-inch drum.
Mm.
So you can make it sound bigger, but not smaller. Like 20s, you can make sound smaller if you need to.
Mhm.
Minor
That's something only
cymbals.
a drummer would understand. Pillow in the snare drum or in the bass drum. Like that's only something a
Yeah.
drummer would understand.
Yeah, I mean, like that's still like you're never. I mean, there's all these self-muffling heads, and everybody's like, "Oh, don't put anything in your kick drum," and that's good in the room. But a microphone doesn't hear the same thing that your ear hears, and it's not in the same position either. And if you were to put your ear inside of a bass drum that doesn't have a pillow in it, the first thing you would say is put a pillow in that thing, because it's just going to sound like poop through a PA. You know what I mean? So, and I've done the experiments for years and years and years, and it's like depending on what you're going for, if you're going for like a Bonham kind of thing. But even, I mean, it's a misconception that he didn't, that he played a wide open bass drum. I mean, he did in some instances, but it depending on, again, like how you were miking. He wasn't close miking his kick drum either. There wasn't a mic inside of his drum whenever he did that. So, different techniques for different things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, I got minor cymbals. I pretty much just kind of play like all the hand hammered stuff, thin, medium, thin things. They're not like clunky metal cymbals. I've never really dug that sound or feel. That was the one thing I had to change on Charlie's kit, like playing the Rudes that he had up. It's like go outside and sit in your parking lot and play on the cement for an hour, because they're just so stiff. You know what I mean? Like this. And if you're used to that, that's one thing, but I'm not used to that. I like my cymbals to feel like a little give in them, right? I don't like to hit something that's so rigid. Same thing with my tuning. Like I tune low because I like to be able to, like you can see how far these heads move. I don't like things to like throw my sticks back in my face, so.
Well, I mean, and that's part of the stick you develop too, like being the 5A,
Yes.
5B kind of feel to it and having that more control.
Yeah. Well, that all goes down to your hand size, It's like I experimented with drumsticks forever, and like anything smaller gives me blisters, anything bigger gives me blisters. But if you're getting blisters, it all comes down to your stick size. You need to change stick sizes. So that was one thing that once I got the right size stick in my hands, all of that stuff stopped,
Yeah.
Axis pedals. I recently, I've had a signature pedal with Axis for 20 years almost, but we just redid these in carbon fiber, and they're so light that I have to check my case. Just this last time I flew to Seminole recently to go do some video, I was like, man, I had to look inside to make sure the pedals are in the case. It's how light they are. You wouldn't believe it. Like you can throw them in a backpack, and it's like not a bit,
And
yeah, so they're super light.
A long way, because those Iron Cobras weighed a freaking ton. Like those old school, like.
Right. Well, I've always been, like, I've never liked heavy pedals, and even back in the day, like I started on Speed Kings, which is a very light pedal. Then I went from a Speed King to a Camco, which is another really light pedal. From a Camco to an Axis, and then like anytime I put my foot on like a Yamaha pedal or an Iron Cobra or whatever, they just feel like lead weights to me. It's like, and it's not. I'm not talking about. I mean, yes, the feel of it is heavier, but the actual weight of like the footboard's heavy. Like it just doesn't move quickly because it's heavy. So yeah, it's very rare. I mean, there are people that play, fast on Iron Cobras, but there's not a lot of guys. There's like 2 or 3 guys I can think of. Like most everybody doing like the extreme metal thing is playing on some type of lighter pedal, Axis, or Pearl Demon Drives as another light pedal. It's mostly that kind of thing. And DW, man, I've been talking with DW forever. Like I can't think of one single drummer that plays extreme metal that plays a DW pedal. And I've been telling these guys forever, man, like, dude, you guys need to design a pedal that, like, for extreme metal drummers, like, let's get on that. And we do have some stuff in the back wind. Like, we redesigned the one of the PDP pedals that's like a lighter design. I have some prototype DW pedals here that are interesting that we're working with as a lighter design kind of thing. So, yeah. Just interesting. But I've always loved the Axis stuff. I've been playing on these things since I think I got my first set in 91, 92 maybe, 91. Yeah, 91. I still have that set.
What do you
still
do
have
with
that set of pedals. It's on my spare set at home, my other kit at home. So I still play them. They feel great. Same pedals at, you know,
So
30 years
30-year-old
old.
pedals.
Yep. Yep.
They clearly did something right with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like if you take care of stuff, it lasts,
Hmm.
I worked retail drums for many years, 20 years of my life, and I would sell people hardware and they'd strip it before they'd leave the store over tightening it. Like, what are you doing,
Mm.
dude? This thing's stripped. Well, of course it did. You're trying to tighten it with pliers. What the hell's wrong with you? Stop. Like, stuff doesn't
What
need
did
to
you
be
do?
tight, man. I can move, look at this. I mean, I can move all of this stuff with my hands. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't go anywhere. You don't need to over tighten this stuff. I don't understand drummers sometimes. What are you doing?
Listen, drum
Funny.
stores were where I saw, the first up close and personal experience with professional drummers. I went to
Yeah,
Thoroughbred
right on.
Music and saw Chad Smith.
Yep.
Virgil I got to see at Mars Music in Tampa,
Yep.
and I'll never forget somebody asked Virgil, they said, how did you get so good? And he was like, I just practice like 18 hours a day in my basement. And everyone went, what?
Yeah.
He's like 18 hours a day, no big deal. I was like,
Virgil's an avid practicer. That's something I've never been. I play a lot. I do play drums a lot. I don't practice that much. It's not something that I've ever gravitated towards. Now, saying that, I would find things to do kind of in a musical setting. Like I would play double bass, fast double bass to AC/DC songs, that kind of stuff. Going back years, just, trying to develop endurance more. So, but that was kind of the thing for me. It was more of an endurance thing than it was like speed. Because like if you could play medium fast for a long time, then you could play really fast for a short period of time. Yeah. So, and most of the guys that play like really, really fast, they're not sustaining that stuff very long. You think about like somebody playing, very, very, very rarely will you hear something above 250 for longer than 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is a long time if you think about it. Sit here and count to 5 and think about 250 beats a minute. Like most drummers are not doing that. They're breaking it up with a tom roll or whatever. It's not like people are sustaining these stuff unless you're playing double strokes. Then people are sustaining stuff, but it's much easier to do. Playing the double stroke thing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there should be any kind of set rules or anything. Whatever you do to get the job done. Again, I just go back to the whole honesty thing. Just don't fix your stuff to be better than who you are. I could care less how good somebody can edit you to be. That's not why I listen to music. You know what I mean? And that's not why most people listen to music, to be honest. I mean, there are certain people out there that like to hear polished stuff. And believe me, I love a great drum production. I can go back and listen to like some of Dave Weckel's earlier recordings. Man, his drums just sound...
I got to see Dave Weckel.
Stellar. I don't really care for the way his drums sound, his modern drum sound. He's changed a lot. He's went from a less closed sound to a more like room kind of sound, but and even the way he tunes is not the same. He's using bigger drums. I go back to some of those like first Chick Corea records, like Eye of the Beholder, for example. It's like one of my favorite Chick Corea record that Weckel played on at least. And it's like, man, his drum sound on that is just, it's like the production value of what's going on there is so good, but it's all natural drums. There's no triggering. There's no like, it's just a mic'd drum kit. And I just don't understand why we can't get back to that, I wish more drummers would get back,
To this day, and I'll bring it up, Carter Beauford, listening to Dave Matthews, like being a lover of metal and listening to 41, and he's doing the fills with the hot rods. And I've been listening to the album for 30 years, and I'm just like, it gets faster and faster every time you listen to it. I swear it does.
Right. Well, yeah, your ear gets more acclimated to it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I know
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, No, not at all, because he also had a great sound. That's something that's been lost. It's like I hear producers now that tell the drummers, "Oh, don't even worry about changing your heads. I'm just going to sound replace everything." Like, really?
No.
Like I've been doing a lot of recording here at my place lately. It started just as me doing some of my students a favor because, a couple of students of mine were like, "Yeah, man, we're recording right now." I say, "Oh man, where'd you do the drums at?" "Oh, well, it's expensive and it's basically just drum machine part." I'm like, go get the stems and bring your kit over here. I'll mic your kit. Let's put some real drums on it. So it kind of started as that. Now all of a sudden I've done like every local band in town. Like, but the one thing I've noticed is there have been some bands that, they want that ultra produced kind of thing. And I tell them, I'm not your guy. I could give you 5 other dudes in town that if that's what you want, go there. If you want me to capture what you sound like, I can do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to treat my computer like a tape machine. Like if you can't get from A to Z in your song, I'm not your guy. Because all this punching in stuff, like that's another thing that kills music for me. Even if it does have a natural kind of sound, I feel punch-ins. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I can't really listen to Black Seeds of Vengeance all that much because I know where all the punches are at. And it's like taking a bathroom break. You know what I mean? It's like watching a movie and having to piss like every 5 seconds. Like, oh fuck, I gotta go piss. I'll be right back. You know what I mean? Like, and then you come back and you get back into the movie again. Now you're settled back into it. All right, now, oh fuck, I gotta piss again. You know what I mean? Or I got a better analogy for you. So think of a song, right? Think of a song as if somebody asked you to go see a band, right? At the local club, okay, it starts at 8 o'clock. Okay, cool. That would be your normal experience listening to the song, right? Okay, let me grab my stuff. Let me get this. Let me get everything. Okay, cool. I get in my car. I know how far it is. I've done the trip a million times. I'll be there in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'll get my ticket at the door. That's listening to the song, right? Before punch-ins. After punch-ins, it's like making that same trip, but with your wife or girlfriend. Does that make sense?
All too well.
Because you have to take an extra 10 minutes to get ready, or 15 or an hour, if it's like depending on who it is. Then you got to make 15 stops before you get there to Walgreens or wherever else. You end up being late for the show. That's what punch-ins feel like to me. When I listen to modern day music, it's like having your wife or girlfriend along for the ride when you have to be somewhere at a specific time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel punch-in. So like, it's something about starting a song and ending a song, and the moment that you capture within that. Very, very different from like I recorded this piece and I recorded that piece and I recorded this piece and I recorded that piece and then we put it together. It doesn't feel the same.
Not at all.
Well, it's not the same experience. Right? It's not
close.
The same experience. Right. And again, this is all part of the stuff that has killed music,
But I also feel like I have to say, you literally are keeping music honest. They're coming to you and saying, we want it done this way, or we want it done. No, that's not me. Go to somebody else. You're going to come to me. You're going to get it that way. And I think that's, you're taking one small step, as minuscule as it may seem, towards making music honest again, making producers and bands say, hey, look, it's okay if this drum doesn't sound perfect this time around,
right?
And,
but
okay
there's
this doesn't. I think technology on that end of it, because going back to this musician thing, like I think technology on that side of it it hasn't killed it completely, because there are guys that care, but it's taken away like some of them, like the micro things
that make music beautiful, right? So like with the drummer, with any musician, right? Guitar player, doesn't matter, even flute, whatever. Like you'll notice that clarinet players, from clarinet player to clarinet, they can play the same clarinet, but it sounds different,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's kind of, there was an interview with Ted Nugent when he, met Eddie Van Halen for the first time and wanted to play through Eddie's amp. And he said he was so excited to do that, but he just realized that he still sounded like Ted Nugent, and that's the thing, like with drums and drummers and musicians in general. My friend Gus Rios came to me. They were recording, I think, the second Gruesome record or whatnot. And he was like, hey, man, let me borrow a snare. I don't have like a really nice 10-lug snare right now, like a $high nice snare drum. Can I come borrow something? What would you suggest? I was like, I don't know. I'll pick out a few things. You could tell me what you like. So I had like a maple drum, a birch drum, a beech drum, a steel drum, a bronze drum, a copper drum, an aluminum drum. You know what I mean? And he was like, all right, we'll just play a few of them. And I started playing some drums. After about the fifth one, he was like, bro, he goes, just give me one of them. He goes, with you playing them, he's like, every one of those drums sound the damn same. Because they're all tuned similar, you know what I mean? It's like, so touch is like something that musicians, especially drummers, I don't think, and guitar players as well, like, I don't think people spend a lot of time thinking about touch.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or examples, right? There's a million ways to hit a drum, right? Here's two, right? Here's one. Okay? Here's another. Right? Sounds like two different drums.
Yeah.
Did I change to a birch kit? Did I change heads? You know what I mean? No, I just changed my grip. That makes a bigger difference than what your drums are made out of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that kind of stuff, I think, has just been completely lost with the whole technology of sound replacing and whatever. Because I know if I go into a venue that's boomy and has like a lot of airy space going on, I know automatically that I'm going to be playing tight on my sticks that night just to get the bite to come back into my drums. It's something that I automatically know, right? Most drummers don't have a clue. Younger drummers, at least. Like some of the older drummers do, especially gigging guys that are gigging all the time. But the younger drummers, because of the sound replacement and because of how easy it is to just pull somebody else's phones or whatever it is, that kind of thing has been lost, Like what the actual difference is between a single playhead and a double playhead. Right? Instead of just going, oh, you play Evans? Okay, I'll go get those. But discovering what works best for you, Ambassadors work for me, but they don't work for a lot of metal drummers, So, I don't know. Again, that goes back to knowing who you are and finding out that kind of stuff beforehand before you start trying to, form an identity on a drum kit. Being honest, learning to live with your mistakes, this is all the stuff that's going to make us better, as musicians and make the true value of music come back, I think, the details.
Yeah.
I
don't think anybody could have said it any better. Like, I just think you summed it up perfectly. So the last two things, the one thing I wanted to tell you that I thought was kind of ironic is every day on lunch, because I work from home, I go for a walk around the neighborhood. Go for a walk, and the last few days, big black racers have popped me in the foot.
It's the heat. Man, they're all over the place. Racers love heat.
I haven't seen them. And then today I literally I go to check the mail, and there's about a 6-foot one just sitting there. And I went, today's going to be a good day. Today's going to be a good day.
Yeah. And racers are fun. They're cool when you can actually get your hands on them if they don't musk you, but they're fun little quirky snakes. I like them. Yeah. My wife and I, we get out all the time. We go over to around Fort Myers and out east of Fort Myers, the Lehigh Acres area, and drive around and look for snakes and stuff. And we see all kinds of stuff, and just getting out in nature, and that's kind of like our thing to do. We don't really do movies or go out to eat much. We drive in the middle of a big, state forest or whatever, and spend the day and have a picnic, and that's kind of stuff we do. Look for animals, and
I
yeah,
kind of love it. Like, and
get away
I
from
was like,
people.
I have to tell him this story. I said, because it was so funny to see, and I'll send you the picture afterwards because I got one of them because I'm like, I gotta send him this. Like, I gotta just share this because of,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the passion you've got. So my last thing would be, I don't want to make it feel like a dancing monkey, but you're sitting at a drum set. Can you close us out with something? Just a little blurb of something maybe you've been working on or something you like to play.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll let you hear the kit, how good the kit sounds. Is it distorted sounding or is that good?
No, it sounds pretty good.
All right. Anyway.
That was perfect.
Whatever.
That was amazing. And I know you've got a lesson here in like 10 minutes, but man,
Yeah, that's right. I do. I don't know if
that's
he's he hadn't called me yet, so I don't know if he's huh. Anyway.
I don't want to be there, but man,
He may show
this
up.
was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Man, I really, really hate that Seminole is gone, but it seems like John Spinelli is staying busy doing some stuff, and I just recently spoke with him not too long ago, through a mutual friend of mine, and he seems to be kind of plugging along over there, so that's a good thing. I was kind of hoping maybe he would get like involved with another store, or maybe there would be something going on. What's going on as far as like in the music store scene there? Anything, or is it still just Guitar Center and that's it? Or is there any independence, or what's going on in Tampa?
No, I mean, Guitar
Nothing.
Center is a shell of what it used to be. Sam
Of
Ash finally
course.
closed.
Yep.
And I mean, that Sam Ash held a lot for me because that was where my dad and I would go every other weekend, over in
Yeah. Right.
Clearwater and just play the drums, just play on drums. And it was like, as the years went by, it was like there were less drums, less staff, and there were less people who cared about music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, Encore was one of the ones at Port Richey that, one of the stores I grew
Okay.
up.
Encore.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
And,
They're not there. Not there
mm,
anymore. Gone. Right. That's been
no.
a while though.
Yeah, it's been
So
a while,
there's
but it seems fresh.
right. So no other like independents right now.
Not that I've seen. And I mean, that's what's so sad is that I'm not going to look for them. But I mean, I usually, as a drummer, you know where they are. You know where that hole in the wall is. You know where that place is to go. And I feel like those places have gone. I don't
Did
think
you
right now those are.
Did you ever know Bill Mink and AJ and those guys
Oh,
from
yes, I know
Thoroughbred?
Bill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, I would love to see him and connect with him. It's been years. So if you actually see him, tell him I said hello.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
going to try and reach out to Bill, and I'll leave you with this. So we went to see Ringo Starr and his all-star band last year, and
all
I
right.
only went other than the chance to see Ringo. I
Yes.
wanted to see Greg Bissonette play. I got to meet him
Yeah.
at
Yep.
AJ's. And I'm standing in line, and the guy in front of me, he kind of looks at me. He's much older than me, and he goes, um, he's like, "You seem a little bit young to be here." And I said, "Well, I'm just here to see Greg Bissonette play." He goes, "You sound like my buddy Bill." And I go, "Bill Mink?" And he goes, "What?" Like two complete strangers.
Yeah.
My dad's
Yeah.
known Bill for, gosh, it's got to be 30 years. It's got to be.
Yeah. I'm I'm there with you. Yeah. It's like I said, when I was in Hate Eternal and in Tampa all the time, every time I was there, I'd go by and see Bill, you know. Um yeah, good times, man. I hopefully there will be more stores popping up. It looks like I've been seeing things, and I was just at Minol, and they were saying that there seems to be some people popping up, trying to do it, get back into the real game, like away from the social stuff and back to
I
a
think
brick and mortar store. Yeah.
that would be great. Like,
Yeah, I think
um,
so as well. I think we need to get
but
back to more of that. I think if there were more places outside of Guitar Center, you know what I mean? Like if there was a real place to go that would kind of like hone and craft young musicians. Like when I worked at Resurrection Drums, like at lunchtime on any given day, there would be 20, 25, 30 drummers that would just pop in, buy a pair of sticks, pick up a drum key, whatever that was, just anything to come in to support the store,
yeah,
and it's like, I miss that environment because like, man, we had so much fun and just all the amount of different crazy talent that would come in and the stuff you would pick up from people. And man, it's so cool. Like most of my learning and stuff that I did, came from just being in retail, watching other drummers come in and learning about the gear. And that's just it holds such a special place to me that another thing that
same,
doesn't exist anymore.
same. And what's really funny is now that I think about it, I hit two drum clinics at Seminole that I can remember. Yours and
Yep.
Portnoy's. Like that was it.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. Right. Yep.
and I thought that was kind of ironic that those are the two. But man, um, when that memory popped up, I've been watching you do things and not seeing you as in as much music as I want you to be. I saw the imperishable stuff and like hoping there's going to be more music that way.
Oh man.
Uh,
How about my band in Lebanon, Kavar? Have you heard any of that?
no.
Okay. You have to look that up. Kavar. Kavar. I got one release out with them. We're getting ready to put another one out. That's pretty cool. It's very like non-Western sounding metal.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. It's very cool, very different, oddball kind of metal. Fast,
Listen,
it's fast and stuff. And yeah, I mean, there's that. There's Serpent's Rise. I got a new Serpent's Rise coming out here in the next couple months. My band Isotropy, we're on our third release. We're going to start recording that one here in the next probably month or two.
yeah, I saw
Um,
physical CDs in your hands on one of your posts, and I was like, yes, yes.
yeah. Hit me up if you want one. I'll mail you one. We got two physicals of Isotropy.
Yeah.
I have the Doomzilla with Jim Ross that we did, which is really cool. And then also with Jim Ross, his Band Horror project. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's over 150 songs, I think, and over 100 musicians. It's going to be one of the most epic, like extreme metal releases ever done.
Let's
The
go.
way he's putting it out, you can take drums from like one section of the recording and mix it with guitars from another and bass and vocals from another. Like you can build your own like listening experience, if you will, out of all
It's
the
like
material
Build-A-Bear,
that
but
he's.
with metal.
Yeah, it is actually. It's pretty cool, man. But it's taken him close to a decade to get it sussed out and to make everything work. Um, and there's even a part of it where you can play it all at the same time, and it's so horrifying. It's unlistenable. I mean, it's like but it's epic. So I can't wait for him to get that finished. I mean, like I said, I've done so much music in the last, I can't even really, if I was open up my computer now, I'm doing a band right now with Jason Goebel from Cynic, which is cool. Like, so look for
That's what I'm saying.
that.
Like seeing you in all these projects, I'm like, yes, we're getting it. Like it's back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing this forever. I mean, I'm on my 6th Serpent's Rise, and there was the the band that I did with Mitch Harris from Napalm Death, that Menace band. I don't know if you ever heard of that. That is like probably one of my favorite drum recordings I think I've ever done. It's not metal. It does have some metal stuff here and there, sprinkles. It's kind of more like pop metal, pop rock.
Okay.
That stuff is like some of my favorite ever. Love it. There's a couple of Council of the Fallen records that I've done that Kevin didn't even put out, that like now we're working on some new stuff. So we're thinking about possibly releasing like some more of that. I mean, like I said, man, there's so much music out there I've done. If you just search my name through DistroKid, I've got Ends up there as a band I did. The Great Die is another band I've done in the last little. I mean, there's so much music, man. You know, that's the thing. It's like, yeah.
I've got some homework now. I love it.
Yeah, I'll send you links if you like links to any of this stuff. I'll send you stuff that you can check out.
Heck yeah, because I'll definitely put that in there. But man, I just want to thank you. Like this was
Definitely.
such an amazing experience, and you taking the time, to come on the show and do this. And we're thankful over here at the DrumQuig Podcast. I have to shout out our friends at Jerseys for Drummers. They made these. There's only 2 of these in the world. Me and my dad are the only 2 that have them. So it's, of course, like nobody else would have, their name. Nobody else is going to walk around with my name on their jersey, but, super cool dudes doing super cool things. And, really just thank you for everything. I appreciate it. And especially playing a little something for us. And, really the insight you brought to this, like, no amount of homework, no amount of prep, no amount of watching old interviews would have prepared me for the level of insight you brought. And I mean that in the best way possible, because
well, thank you.
I mean,
like I said, it's just my observation of stuff. Everybody's going to have their own observation. Everybody sees things differently, but only thing I can do is just answer for me. And I know why I don't connect with the music scene anymore. And if it's happening for me, then it's happening for other people too, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on behalf of myself, Dad, when he pops in, from moving forward, it'll just be me. He might pop in for a show. It just depends on availability, but we are both thankful that you were able to take the time. I thank you so much. Stick around for a few minutes afterwards because it has to load everything, but I'll go ahead and roll us out, and thanks so much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.